What I'm going to do today is give a very different talk than what I usually do. Nicholas asked me to get on the edge more, and so I'm going to do that today. More broadly, I think that issues around AI and many ethical problems are not going to be resolved if we maintain a focus on humans. I'm going to say some really, I think, controversial things about what I think this all means for consciousness, and basically the idea that physics and evolutionary history do not tell the whole story. The first thing to realize is that there are patterns that are not set by either physics or history. So what you're looking at here is something called a Halley plot, and then I've made kind of videos of them that basically comes from plotting this formula in complex numbers. But this is the kind of richness that this encodes if you know how to look at it. This idea that there are specific patterns in mathematical objects that are neither determined by physics nor by any kind of evolutionary history. There is another source. Biologists don't like to think about that. Biologists would like everything in biology to be explained either by some necessity of physics or by an evolutionary history of selection. But that is clearly not the only game in town. What I would like to suggest is what Platonist mathematicians think is happening, which is that there is another space, an ordered, structured space of truths that are not determined by any facts of the physical world. They're sort of independent in that sense, but of course they affect the things that do happen in the physical world. What they're doing is exploring this space in a systematic, structured way. And so these patterns, in physics we see them as constraints. In biology, I think we actually see them as enablements. I think we call biology systems that are actually making use of some of these as free lunches. My hypothesis is this. Basically what I'm taking is this world of forms, or the Platonic space, or the latent space, or whatever you want to call it, contains low agency patterns like facts about numbers and logic and the truths about prime numbers and things like that. But also it contains more complex active patterns that behavioral scientists would recognize as kinds of minds. What I think is happening is that the relationship between mind and body is basically the same relationship as between truths of mathematics and physical objects. There are two implications to this. First of all, that I think that whatever we build, machines, robots, biobots, embryos, bodies, organs, whatever we build, these are basically interfaces. They're front ends. They're like thin clients for these patterns that ingress into the physical world and have a huge impact on what actually happens. I think this stuff is pervasive. I think it goes all the way down to the bottom. It is not just the biological bodies that have the advantage of being able to host these kind of patterns. This is very important for the status of AIs and all this kind of stuff, because I do not believe that we make intelligence, either biological or technological. I think that what we make are interfaces that basically enable some of these patterns to come into the physical world.